Hey guys, I've had several requests for a video on how to figure out songs and produce them in Ableton. So here it is, beginner Ableton, reverse engineering AFX, Aphex, and the Tuss.
In the movie Paycheck, Ben Affleck was hired to reverse engineer a 3D television. And not only did he do that, but he eliminated everything until just a hologram was left standing there. I try to do the same thing with music. The first thing Ben Affleck did was to go out and get the Arcos TV set with the intention of reverse engineering it. And in this case, you need a copy of the music in Ableton that you're going to reverse engineer to take it apart, warp it, use the metronome to slow down time if there's a lot of complexity. So this is going to sound funny, but about 75% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed. So why don't you all just subscribe now, and on the bell click all so that you never miss a video. Also check out my Patreon, where my patrons can download the patches and Ableton live sets and MIDI that I do in these videos. Okay, so here I am in Ableton. I like this arrangement view. This is the session view. The two views can be toggled over here on the far right. And this view here is for putting little clips in there and then launching them. But typically I don't use that. I use the session view, which is the classical timeline going across. You record something and you can see the transient going across, or you put a MIDI clip in there, but we'll get to that. In the best case scenario, you have the song already in iTunes or something, and you can drag it into Ableton. So here I've dragged one of my tracks into Ableton, dragged it onto an audio track. Double click on that track, and I'll get the best quality if I choose Complex Pro. Ableton has determined that it's 120 BPM. So if you're going to try and copy this track or reverse engineer this track, you have to have it warped to the metronome and warped to this grid here, so your beats will line up and your music will line up. So it says the song is 120 BPM. So I'll put this on 120. All right, so I'll start it playing and we'll see if it lines up with the metronome. Ableton's algorithm that it set here and said the song was 120 BPM, and it was. It put a warp marker on the 1 and continued. You can see little light marks there, and as you go across them you can see warp markers. You can add your own warp markers if it's something played live or it's not on the beat. You can grab one of the transients there and you can pull it around and pull it onto the beat. Sometimes I don't have a copy of the song, so the way I record into Ableton on a MacBook Pro is to make my computer output to Soundflower, and then in Ableton under Live Preferences Audio, select Soundflower as the input. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just deciding on the tempo so that when I record something into Ableton, it will record in at the perfect tempo and make my job of warping it and all that very easy. So for copyright issues, I'm going to play my cover version of GX1 so that it doesn't have to be taken down at some point in the future. And then I'm going to hit this tap button in the upper left here and figure out what the perfect tempo is. So let's go over here and just start playing it. Get that out of the way, and now just start tapping. Well, it looks like the tempo is somewhere around 116. I see there 116.64 after tapping it for a while. And so I'm going to click in that box and type in 116 return. Now I've got a tempo for my project here of 116. Now I'm going to record the song from YouTube into Ableton. Okay, so the way you set up for recording in Ableton, you will arm the track by hitting that record button there, and you'll select what the input is here. So I'll do channel 1 and 2. That'll be the left channel coming out of YouTube and the right channel. So it'll be in stereo coming out of YouTube. I'll hit stop a few times to get the cursor all the way to the left, and I'll hit record. Now it is recording any sounds my computer makes into Ableton through Soundflower. So I'll go to my cover that I made of the Tuss GX1 and I'll hit play. And we see it playing into Ableton. And since I know it was 116, I recorded it into Ableton when my project tempo up here at the top was 116. If I double click on it, it guessed the BPM at 116. And so if I can find the 1 and put that on one of these main numbers here, I just double click on that warp marker and I drag it to any one of these major indicators. So let me click right there at the beginning, and if I play it, it should be aligned with the metronome and no more work needs to be done. And yes, it lines up perfectly. Something interesting about the song GX1 is that it is in 3/4 time. Now you see my 4/4 time up here, that's my 4/4 metronome. So it has one loud tick and then I'll have 3 quieter ticks. Well, that did line up with this song, but only because it goes 1 2 3 2 2 3 3 2 3 4 2 3. So you get the 4 ticks, but it's only 12 beats. So something has to be fixed here, or it could be very frustrating trying to get your beats to line up. So you click there and choose triplet grid, and that takes care of it. And when you double click on that clip, let's put this on Complex Pro again to get the best audio. You click down here and also choose triplet grid. Now, when we do our beats and everything, it will not drive us crazy. Okay, so I've got the track in here, I've got it warped, and it's on the triplet grid, and I'm ready to start reverse engineering it. So I'm gonna start with the drums. I'm gonna go over here under drums, and I'm going to pick 606 Core Kit. You notice that in the original track, his hi-hats are very metallic sounding, and I think of all the Roland drum machines, the 606 is the most metallic sounding. The song basically has 3 drum patterns. It has the intro pattern, and then it has the main pattern, and then there's a few little areas in the song where it goes into this 3rd pattern. So for these first 4 measures, the intro pattern plays. And it plays the same pattern 4 times in a row. So if we just do this pattern here, we'll have the first 4 patterns, and that'll take us to about right here. So if we select that area there and click Insert MIDI Clip, now we've got down here at the bottom the whole 606 kit. And if this little headphone symbol here is clicked and it's blue, we should be able to hear each one of those. And the way to quickly go back and forth between what you're working on and the original is to, here where it says 1, deselect that, because this is your mute. So you're gonna mute that. You'll deselect the yellow there where it says 1. And now if you want to hear what you're working on, you just hear it at all times. And if you want to flip back and forth between what you're working on here and the original, you just solo out the original. And then all you hear is the original. And then you unsolo it and you'll be back to your project that you're working on. So you can kind of flip back and forth in that way quite easily with the solo button. Okay, another helpful hint, you can select this and you right click and go to loop selection. And now you'll be able to hear the drum pattern that you're working on over and over again. Okay, so this is the pattern that I came up with for pattern 1. And because it's looped, we can hear it over and over again. And that should continue for 4 times. So I'm going to hit Command D. I'm going to highlight it. It turns white. Then I'm going to hit Command D until I have 4 of them. This is what I came up with for the main pattern. Then there's this section later on where there's a little bit different pattern. Now I'm going to work on the bass line. It's the SH101, and I use TAL VSTs for pretty much everything because they have perfect imperfections and that a lot of the others don't, and they enable you to sync and re-trigger the LFOs, which I like. So I have really 2 different patches. I just have a standard SH101 type of bass patch that the song starts out with. Then we've got this little complicated passage here. Now if you want to figure something like that out, you can just slow down the tempo. Now that we're warped, we can slow it way down to maybe 50. I'll let you take a look at the MIDI that's in there. That's what it came out to be. But you can play it more slowly and figure the passage out. So that's what it was. Then we start the main bass patch. And this is a patch that he used in Acid 04 and a number of other songs. What it is it's a random LFO, so it's used as a sample and hold. The hold comes from having the LFO rate down at pretty much 0, so it's not going to change while you're holding down the note, and then having it re-trigger. So let me filter down and let me listen to its effect on the pitch. So every time I hit a note, you get a different note, and that's because it's re-triggering a random LFO set at 0 rate. Turn that back down and let you hear the effect on the filter that it does. So you've heard that many times with Acid 04 and other songs. So it's that type of patch. And soloed out with some drums, you get this. Next, let's talk about the patch that he probably did on the Yamaha GX1, but we don't have that. So we're going to use the TAL Juno clone. And this is the patch here. And it has something in common with the last one, and that is that it has a sample and hold again. So this one is synced up to the tempo at 1/8 note triplet grid. I'll let you hear what that does. So that's exaggerated, but you can hear how it's on a triplet grid automatically. So all you have to do is play in the notes and the pitch will vary. So let me reload that pad again, and it comes out something like this. And I gave it a little EQ bump. And now here's another tip. You don't want to hear the original track, which is this bottom one here, this turquoise one. You don't want to hear the effects on that track, but you may want to put effects on everything else. And so you will group the tracks. So I've got the bass tracks here, and if you hold shift and start clicking these tracks, and then right click group tracks, then you can put your effect on the group. So these are the effects that I put on the group. Kind of a strange room mic sound that the original has on it. All right, so first of all, it has kind of a chorus sound to it, so let's add that in. And then I'll start adding these effects in one by one, and you can hear how we get closer to that kind of overdriven room sound. Now, one cool thing about this Ableton reverb is that you can turn its size down to 0.22 is the lowest, and you can get it to sound like a really small room, or even like a little bathroom tile sound or something like that with that low setting. Let you hear what that does with this. So there's without it. It'll give you that cheap metallic early reverb type of sound. This should get you started on reverse engineering and AFX Tuss type of track. And I hope after imitating the great masters that you will apply this to your own thing and do something completely unique. This will be an ongoing series, and these videos will probably appear first on my Patreon and then later find their way onto YouTube. All right, see you next time.